against all odds. What are the chances of someone like me struggling alone to ever be free from fear, bitterness, and pain? When will it all end? Against all odds. Against all odds.
Hi, this is Dr. Diane Thibodeau with Against All Odds broadcast. I just finished my first guest for this segment, Mr. Jamel Brewer, which was outstanding. Please tune in and hear it over and over again, the testimony to the glory of God of how he broke free against all odds. I tell you, God is so good, and I thank him for his grace and for his glory. Against All Odds is a platform where you have an opportunity to tell your story. You have an opportunity to let others hear how you got over. It doesn't mean that everything is still against you. No, it's a time for you to get up and push against the odds that have been dealt to you throughout your life, and to tell others how you did that, you know. And I know that you have a need to hear your peers, some family, or somebody's neighbor. You have a need to hear what they have to say. So today I have with me Miss Latasha Richards, and Miss Latasha Richardson has a wonderful testimony. Miss Richardson, and I guess I'm prophesying Miss Richardson has a tremendous testimony of how she got over. And I want her to share with you. Miss Richardson, can you tell us how God brought you through? You went through a lot of situations when I first met you. You were going through a number of changes in your life. You were kind of insecure. You were kind of doubtful about who you were, your ability. Even though you had skills and ability, you still seemed to be uncertain about it. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Sure. And again, my name is Latasha Richardson, and yes, I was very timid, very insecure, very needy actually. And a lot of that came from, my background. Mm-hmm. I was a young lady or a young child, a baby actually, that was adopted. However, my adoption story is a little bit different because it's not really a legal adoption. I was a black market baby. And for the folks who don't know what a black market baby is, I was sold for drugs. So when I was younger, I was born addicted to drugs. I was sold to a young lady who wanted a little girl. Mm-hmm. Well, that young lady didn't end up keeping me either. So she ended up giving me to her sister, who ended up keeping me at that time. Now, my adopted mom now always tells me that when I was little, I was like 5 years old, she said I would always say, "Mom, what was my other name?" And of course, she was shocked because she was thinking, how did I know that I had another name?
Wow.
I was only around 6 months old when I was sold.
Wow.
So, and she would just, laugh it off. She wouldn't even really give me the time of day with that. So, of course, the little girl, I just, I didn't know any better. But, throughout the years, we lived in a small community. I'm from Illinois, and our small community, we actually, everyone knew your business. So,
sounds like New Orleans.
Exactly. So, everyone knew your business, so people would talk, and, the secrets that you think you have, they were not really secrets because others did know about what was going on in your household. And I was always told that, that's not your real mother. And, I was a little girl. I was, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old. And when I was 12 years old, I finally heard my mother say that she was not my real mother. And that's when it became Rhema to me. That's when it became real that, what? She's not my biological mother. And then, as a child, what do you do with that type of news?
That's a lot.
Exactly. You're hearing now that this is not my real mother.
So then the odds started being built. These walls started being built. The stones started being stacked on top of one another from the time you was born, and the mother that you were born to, your biological mother said, well, I'm on drugs, I need a fix. So the drugs was already there. Now the next stone was, I need a fix. Now the next stone is sell the baby.
Right.
So then the next block is, this mother said, I'll take her for the drugs, but then she says, I'm not going to keep her. That's another stone. And so then after that stone is built, now you're going to another mother, and this mother is raising you but keeping the secret.
Exactly.
So the wall and the stones are starting to be built against you.
Against me.
Okay.
Exactly. And you ask yourself, well, how do you handle that? How do you handle that type of news? What do you do with that situation? What I started doing, I suppressed those feelings. I suppressed it with food, a whole lot of food. I mean, that's all I knew how to do. I also suppressed it with church, though, which actually turned out to be a good thing, because God, He knew the plan that He wanted for my life anyway. So me suppressing it with church and food, food, of course, bad, church, good.
Good.
Because God, He already knew that plan that I was supposed to go as an adult. So when I was 16 years old, my grandfather finally asked me the question, did your mom tell you who your real mother is yet? And of course, I acted stupid. I acted like I didn't know. No, Granddaddy, what are you talking about? So because he didn't want to get in trouble by my mother, he said, you know what, never mind, don't worry about it. So of course, again, more suppressing went on, more secrets went on, more suppressing in myself, more eating went on, more gaining weight went on. And I did get up the courage at that point, however, to ask my mother finally, are you my real mother? Because I'm hearing so many people tell me that you're not my real mother. Well, that was a mistake. When a person wants to keep a secret, and I know that secret, you don't go to that person to ask them about that secret, because that blew up in my face. My mother was so angry, and it was more, how dare I ask her that stupid question? Of course you're my baby. And in her eyes, it was her, I was her baby. And that was a way that she was able to protect me. That was her protection.
So in that whole thing, the whole thing was that she was trying to shield you.
Exactly.
Even though it was the wrong way to shield you, especially after it started coming out.
Exactly.
So after it started coming out, the best thing was to say, here it is, let me just tell you what's going on and how it came about. But sometimes when people are keeping a secret, bits and pieces are worse than coming right out and telling the whole truth.
Exactly. And that's exactly what happened, because, throughout my lifetime, and even going through knowing that she was not my real mother, I started latching on to different women in my life, and different women in my life that I wanted to be like a mother figure in my life. Even though my mom was my mother, and she was a wonderful mother, it wasn't that, but I was longing for something. I was missing something. There was just something, and I can't explain it to people. You try to explain, well, what is that you needed? I don't know. It was just a longing, a wanting for something I didn't know. But I mean, of course, as we get older, we know that longing really is the Lord, is Jesus. Exactly. I mean, and that's the biggest thing. But I was trying to latch on to different people in the church, different women, calling everybody my mother. And that wasn't very healthy for me. No. Because that actually backfired also, because there was manipulation at that point that was able to take form in my life, and I allowed it.
Well, that's the problem with something like that, is that when you are needy and people see you're needy, they can manipulate the situation, sad to say, that they took advantage of the need that you had, and instead of breaking you free, they just thought, good, because they have needs. And if you have a needy person and you're a needy person, you guys begin to suck the life basically out of each other.
Exactly, and that's exactly what happened. So, getting older, going on to college and things like that, there were things in me that started rising up as far as I started getting a little bit angry, though. I started getting a little bit of resentment. And honestly, I was mad at God. Because I was just wondering, Lord, why me? Why did you put me in this situation? I mean, what made you I don't know, what made you pick me? And of course it's not God's fault. We know, and we know, we understand that people always want to blame God, but it wasn't about that. But that's just where I was in flesh. I was in flesh, you know, and that was just
that's where we all start out, right?
Exactly. So, you know, as I got older, I went to school. You know, God did put people in my life, and the people that he put in my life did, you know, help me get good jobs and things like that. Well, at the age of 28, however, there was just something different that just, I don't even know what it was, but there was just a need to know, finally. Looking in the mirror, not knowing who you look like, not knowing who you really are, it was not fair. How can somebody have how can they have some knowledge about you, but trying to hold that knowledge that you know that you deserve to know?
Well, then, you know, sometimes people, like I said, they think they're doing you a favor. So in holding that knowledge, it was twofold. It was for you, but it was also for your mother.
Exactly.
Because then losing you,
exactly,
you know, because that's one of the fears is that, okay, what if you find out that your biological mother is better than me?
Right.
Or that you think that, you know? And so why don't we'll just keep it squashed? And everyone in the family, and you have family members that, siblings, you have sibling rivalry anyway. Now here you come in, and this is like sibling rivalry we don't have to have.
Exactly.
So we're gonna get rid of you.
And that's that's exactly what it is. So, you know, and you know, I look at it now, and I definitely understand where my mom came from, and you know, after you know, that started building up in me, and that need to know that I was adopted, and I went to my dad, my adopted father. And I just started asking questions to other people instead of my mother, because I knew that she wasn't going to give me this information.
No.
My dad finally sat down and told me that I was adopted. He said, you know what, I've been wanting to tell you since you were a young girl anyway. And he said, you know, I also went to all my brothers and sisters and started asking them, and they were sworn to secrecy. They said, well, now that you know, exactly, now that you know, we might as well tell you. And they said, well, don't tell Mom that we told you. We're going to talk to her for you. And they did just that. They contacted my mom, they talked to her, and then when she called me, she said, you know what, come back home. I was actually living out of town at that point. She said, come back home, we'll sit and we'll talk about it.
Wow.
And she finally told me the truth.
Wow.
However, one thing I do caution adopted parents to do, be careful how you tell your adopted child the truth. There's a way that you can tell adopted child that they're adopted without telling them that their birth parent did not love them, that they were crackheads or anything like that. You want to be careful of making it sound so horrible.
Horrible, yeah.
Exactly, because
like you were on the dump and they came and picked you up.
And that's exactly what I felt. That's exactly, and I know she was probably doing it to protect herself. And that was the biggest thing. Like you said, she didn't want to lose me, and she didn't really want me to find her. So she did have a birth certificate. The birth certificate that she had was from the hospital. She said, well, it's not real, it's fake. So these names are falsified. Well, you know, curiosity, still, you're going to start looking those names up on the internet. So when I went home, I looked those names up on the internet.
And they were real.
And guess what? Lo and behold, they were real.
Wow.
I ended up finding her on the internet. I called my birth mother. I'm sorry. I ended up finding my birth mother on the internet. Ended up calling her one evening. Her phone was disconnected. Was very discouraged. Called a friend of mine, and they were like, you know what, Latasha, call 411. At that time, back in those days, I was 28 at the time. 411 still existed. They had a new phone number for her. At that point, it was too late to give my birth mother a call. I called her the next day. In fact, I called her from work. I worked at a wonderful company, and all of my colleagues were standing around me. Exactly, they were all
even
my boss.
Told
them the story.
Okay.
It was a testimony. This was a wonderful testimony, and I told them the story. My boss was even there. They said, call her. I called my birth mother that morning. And when I called her, she was so quiet on the phone. I just explained who I was. I told her how the birth certificate looked. And she said, you know what? You found me.
Wow. Wow.
That's all she could say, is you found me. And I mean, at that point, it was just so overwhelming. I was just so emotional. I don't even know if I stayed at work that day. But it was just so emotional. It was a wonderful feeling to know that finally. And you know, I'm going to tell you something. The reason why I wanted to find my birth mother, it was closure for me. It was not to find a new mother, to anyone to replace the mother that I have, or to find love or anything like that. I wanted to know who I was. I wanted to know who I looked like.
Yep.
You know, and it's that simple, who I look like. And so even just finding her, finding those things out, I was satisfied. And I mean, it brought closure to my life after meeting them. You know, and I ended up having another sibling that was biological. I had an older sister and I have a younger brother. She did keep them. You know, I went through a honeymoon stage with them. Everything was wonderful. But then you have to ask yourself, who are these people in my life? They're strangers.
Right. And they were still dealing with, I hope you're not coming in.
Exactly.
And trying to split. Mom's got to split her love now with one more person, you know.
Exactly.
So I'm sure that was a threat.
It was a threat definitely to my older sister. And even now, we don't really have a relationship because it's more or less, her feeling is I had a better life than they did.
Okay.
Because I got out. They didn't have the best life. But you know what? My life wasn't the best, but it wasn't bad either. When I look back at my life, as far as how my adopted mother, in comparison to, you know, how my adopted mother raised me, we had a wonderful life. We didn't want for anything. And, you know, people say, well, you guys were poor. We were? If we were poor, I didn't know it. I tell you, and it's wonderful. And my mom loved us. And, you know, to see my birth mothers and my birth sister and my birth brother, I literally thank God that I was not raised with them, because that just wasn't God's plan for my life. And I mean, I see it now more clearly than ever, you know. So it was more finding my mother for that closure. And I know a lot of people are out there, you know, wondering, should I even open that door? I mean, that's a question only you can answer. Nobody can really tell you what you should or should not do. I did it because I needed closure in my life. Again, it depends on what your motive behind.
Exactly.
It's your motive behind finding your birth family. I mean, so even if you have medical conditions, things like that, I mean, sometimes you have to do that.
Well, that's one of the reasons you need to know.
Exactly.
Because if there is a medical condition, someone in your birth family may be able to provide the solution, you know, for the situation. And but you've come through all of this, and since then you and your mother have been, your birth mother's been restored, but also your natural mother there's been a healing, and your adopted mother. There's been a healing.
There's definitely been a healing. I mean, you know, when I first found my birth mother, my mother was a little upset about that. And, you know, just talking with her, reassuring her that, Mama, you are my mama. There's nobody that's ever going to take your place. You were there for me when nobody else was. And she knows that now more than ever. She might not have felt that at that time because it was a threat to her.
Right.
My birth mother was a threat to my real mother. In fact, they even met. That encounter was not very well. But it was an encounter that needed to happen. And my birth mother actually thanked my adopted mother for everything that she ever did. She thanked her for raising me. She thanked her for loving me. You know, she thanked her for things that she knew that she could not do for me.
And that's wonderful.
That was healing for my mother.
That was healing for your mother. That was healing for your birth mother. And that was healing for you.
Exactly.
Because really you were the conduit in between the two of these. And whatever flowed through the conduit was going to be what was going to affect on both sides.
That's it.
So the fact that you were able to love her, bring her in, and still keep the relationship with your mother, and bringing them both into a place where they could face to face and really receive that thank you. Because I'm sure with her, she must have wondered where you were. And then the guilt of letting you go under such circumstances must have been really hard for her.
It was. And even when I met her, the first thing that she had told me is, you were conceived out of love. She didn't really mean that. She just didn't know what else to say. Because of her lifestyle at the time, and she was embarrassed. And, you know, she was ashamed. But it was like, you know, I let her know it's okay. You know, it's okay. Guess what? I still had a wonderful life.
You know, it's so good, because our guest before, Mr. Jamel Brewer, he was saying the same thing about forgiveness, you know, and being able to forgive his mother, and being able to let her back into his life, and to forgive his father, and let him back into his life, and to be able to pull them in to the point where I want them to see my grandchildren. I'm their grandchildren. I want them, my kids, to know them as grandparents. And so to come to that point, you're saying right now, you told her, it's okay.
It's okay.
It's okay. You don't have to make up a story.
Right.
You don't have to blame yourself.
Exactly.
You don't have to do anything.
Nope.
It's okay.
Yep. I mean, it's really, it is. It was all about forgiveness. And, you know, and I know that just made her heart, you know, made her heart just feel so good as well, because
That
I'm
must
sure
have been awesome.
all the pressures in her life throughout knowing that what she did, you know, to me as a baby, I mean, I couldn't imagine how a birth mother would feel that gave their child up. I mean, I don't think there's any birth mother out there that gives their child up saying that, oh, I don't love this baby. You can't tell me that. You carried this baby for 9 months. You love that baby. There is some love for that baby. Even if it's a tiny bit, there's some love for that baby in you, you know, in you.
Well, it's like with abortion. You have to disconnect. You have to separate your love from this baby in order to abort this child. That then it becomes like, well, it's only a lump of flesh, you know, it's like it's only a lump of clay. I mean, you separate yourself, because if you ever allow yourself to actually understand what you're going through and what you're doing, you know, but you'll feel guilty for almost the rest of your life.
Right.
And so many times we've ministered and prayed with people that have gone through abortion because they felt guilty, you know, and the weight of that. I mean, they've said, I've heard my baby crying, I still feel like I'm carrying the baby, or different things, and we've had to pray, because God says there's now no condemnation.
Exactly.
So when you confess your sins, He's faithful and just to forgive you, cleanse you, and restore you. So the fact that you were able to say, okay, even though this happened, you know, don't make up a story about what happened to me, because I'm first of all, I'm old enough now to know the truth.
Exactly.
But I want you to know that there was a breaking, and like you was telling some of the parents in that gave their kids up for adoption, it may have been for a number of reasons. Maybe you couldn't afford them. Maybe you were a teen parent. Maybe it was drugs or whatever. But coming to the realization that I would like one day, or even sending a letter. Some parents have left a letter with the baby to say, one day when you read this, I want you to know that I loved you.
Exactly.
You know, that would have helped you so much if you would have even had that piece of information.
Exactly, because it was so much rejection that I felt, so much abandonment. You know, it like I said, it's really hard to explain, but you know, when I did meet Dr. Diane Thibodeau, I was around 30 years old. It was 11 years ago. And I still had that neediness. I still had all that those rejection issues, and had a lot of interactions with her that I loved her, but then I wanted to kind of step back a little bit. I was in there, but then I want to step back a little bit more, because I wanted to make sure she didn't hurt me. And you know how people say hurt people? And I think that's what I was experiencing. I was hurting others because I didn't want to be hurt. I'm going to hurt you first before you hurt me. And that's what I was doing. But I mean, something in me clicked. And I mean, honestly, it was prayer. It was fasting. It was laying on hands from Dr. Diane Thibodeau when I was delivered from just all of that. I mean, and honestly, till this day today, I can truly say I am delivered from rejection. I'm delivered from abandonment issues. You know, all those things, I'm delivered from that now. I don't have those needy issues where I need to have somebody, I need to have a mother figure in my life that just tells me that she loves me all the time. I don't need to be reassured all the time that she loves me. One thing I know is I know my mother loves me, I know my biological mother loves me, and I know my spiritual mother loves me. I don't have to keep asking her, do you love me? Do you love me? And I think sometimes we go through those things and we don't understand what they are, but we need to step back. We really do need to get in God's face. And, you know, I was telling Dr. Diane one night, I remember also praying, Lord, this thing that's in me, I want you to deliver me from the root of the cause. Whatever caused all of this in me, the neediness, the rejection, the abandonment, I wanted God to go in and deliver me from when it started. And that's exactly what God did. Against all odds. Against all odds. That's what God did. He went in and he went from the very beginning of when all of that started, and he healed me. Totally healed me. I do feel whole today. I feel complete today. But only God can do that.
That's right.
There's no man that can do. She didn't do that. God did that.
Because the important thing was to direct you back to God.
And that's it.
If I would have had you depending on me, all I would have done was trade people.
That's it.
You know, you had this needy person, now they're gone because you're in Minnesota. Now I'm going to be your needy person.
Exactly.
You can depend on me and draw from you. And, you know, people, like you say, hurt people hurt people.
Yes.
But needy people suck the life out of each other, and it doesn't help each other. I couldn't help you.
No.
If I was so needy myself,
No.
how was I going to help you?
Exactly.
You know, so you get to a place in your life where you say, you know what, I'm going to stand. And like I said, against all odds, and many times you would cry, you would say this and that, but God helped to bring you through and to deliver you from your fears and from who you used to be.
Yes, He did.
If we have a few minutes left, what would you say to an adopted child that's seeking their mother out or seeking to find an answer, a solution? Can you give them something in a couple of seconds?
Sure.
Here?
I mean, you know, to the child that is wondering, you know, where your biological parent is, or, you know, do you search for your biological parent? Examine your own heart. That's pretty much, I mean, that pretty much sums it up. I know that may not be what you want to hear, but make sure if you are trying to locate your biological mother, you're doing it for the right reasons. You are doing it to, you know, find answers for yourself, not to hurt somebody else. Because sometimes adopted people can hurt others without even realizing that we're hurting our adopted parents. We are, you know, we want to be careful not to hurt them either, because they have been there for us. They, you know, even the people who do not have adopted parents, you know, make sure that you're doing this for the right reasons. And I encourage you, get help when you're doing when you're searching for them. Seek a counselor, seek a pastor, you know, seek some help on on dealing with your emotions throughout the adoption process and finding your adoption process, because believe me, you're dealing with a whole lot of emotions when you're going through this situation.
Amen. Well, I thank God for Latasha Richardson, and I thank God for how the Spirit of the Lord has developed her. You had to know where she was to know where she is. But God has been so faithful in your life, and I'm so proud of who you are and who God has made you. And now you have information and substance that you can give to someone else. This is against all odds. And believe me, those two testimonies said what? Against all odds, I'm coming out. Listen, you can contact us at Family Life Center. You can contact us at 612-522-5807 and let us know if we can be of help to you. We are believing God to change your life in a tremendous way. This is Dr. Diane Thibodeau, Against All Odds broadcast. No matter where you are, no matter who you are, you can get out. Father, I pray for them. I pray for those that are listeners. Help them to help themselves. Give them strength where they're weak. Give them the power to be able to walk out of the crisis that they're in, or at least to ask for help. In Jesus' name, I love you. God bless you.